I lost my brother, my older brother. Well, he was unlawfully killed at Hillsborough. I was only 23 at the time, and so I feel like I've lived my whole adult life under this dark cloud of Hillsborough. I lost my parents, particularly my dad, prematurely because of the torments that the parents went through because of Hillsborough, and I'm now trying to continue to right things for the future generations.
Afternoon, committee. My name's Steve Kelly. I lost my older brother Michael, who was also unlawfully killed at Hillsborough. I'm 72 years old now, and I've spent half my life trying to right this wrong. It's something that's not only tormented us, it's haunted us. We've given so much of ourselves, as Sue just rightly said, so that in years to come, people will never ever go through this again. It's been cruel. It will continue to be cruel until we get sanctions in place for those that break the law and cut corners, cover up. We will carry our fight on until that happens. And, you know, we hope you look favourably on us today.
Margaret Aspinall.
My name's Margaret Aspinall. I lost my elder son James, who was just 18, 3 weeks into 18, at his first away game at Hillsborough, unlawfully killed. I had 4 other children besides James. James was the eldest. They've lived their lives under the shadow of Hillsborough, watching the mother fighting, campaigning, trying to get justice for them for the 97. And I think it's an absolute disgrace what's gone on over these years. We are now 36 years down, and all we want, all we're here for, is to have a Hillsborough law to change a system that was so corrupt and morally wrong against ordinary people. And that's why we're here today. But my children and my grandchildren are living under the shadow of Hillsborough now. And to me, that is an absolute disgrace 36 years on.
Charlotte Hennessy.
I'm Charlotte Hennessy. I'm the daughter of Jimmy Hennessy, who was unlawfully killed at Hillsborough when I was 6. I'm now 43 years old and a mum of 4 sons. I have spent my whole life, quite literally, trying to climb out of this hole that is a cover-up of what happened at Hillsborough. And yeah, I'm here today to represent what happened to my dad. If you don't mind, could people speak a little bit louder? Because Margaret, Sue and Steve struggle to hear. If you didn't mind speaking into your mics, that would be quite helpful. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. Before I invite questions, could I say personally how very much I appreciate the fact that you're here and that you've taken the trouble to be here today. The lines of questioning will be as sympathetic as, under these circumstances, it is possible to make them.
Thank you.
Dr. Mullen.
I'm Kieran, I'm the Shadow Justice Minister. I just want to give my sincere condolences to all of you and to all of the families for what you've been through, and to commend really your persistence, your courage, your bravery in carrying on, in campaigning over such an extended period as you have all done. It really is remarkable, and we're all very grateful. I won't ask many questions, and there are MPs on the panel who've worked with you and know you very well, and I'm sure we're keen to ask questions. I guess I would just ask if any of you wanted to talk about how things might have been different, what the experience might have been in a different way for you, had you known what happened from the start and had that truth from the outset. Anyone wants to add?
So if I'll start, if you don't mind. So my experience is very different to Margaret, Sue and Steve, because I was so young. So, you know, I didn't know the magnitude of what had happened until the Hillsborough Independent panel released their report. That was the only opportunity that I had from there to access evidence, statements, and be able to piece a timeline together of what actually happened to my dad. So that was really for me when I, realised the magnitude of what had happened. So, thankfully, and I would like to acknowledge that, you know, the Hillsborough family members that aren't here today, but who, if it wasn't for the Hillsborough family members, and if it wasn't for survivors who stood by their truth and, you know, were shut down by the people that were supposed to be protecting them, if they hadn't have, you know, fought the fight, if you like, children like me would never have known the truth of what happened. And for me, it only got worse from there. It was like Hillsborough had just happened at that time, because that's when I realised that actually my dad's original cause of death was completely untrue, but even down to his pathology report was untrue. You know, it wasn't how my dad died. I won't speak about the details in here. I will send them privately to the Bill Committee. But yeah, that's had a profound impact. And had all of that information have been available, I don't think that I would have had to have spent my whole teenage and adult life fighting, you know, for the truth of what happened to him. It now impacts on my own children, like Margaret was saying earlier. We've had to, my husband's here in the room today, and we have to educate our own children, you know, of the seriousness of those lies, and you know, of what the cover-up, the impact of the cover-up had, in that their granddad would have been buried in a lie if it wasn't for these good people.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I just ask, because there are four of you, if you'd like to indicate to me if you wish to add to the first answer that's given, it would help me to help the committee, because we've got quite a lot of questions that we obviously want to get in. Would anybody else like to come in immediately on that?
Yeah.
No.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
No. Dr. Mullen.
And then part of the measure of the bill are trying to create parity of esteem in terms of legal advice and legal support. And one of the big reasons for that is it costs money. I just wonder if any of you experienced financial loss as a result of all the stuff that you've had to do.
Yes, I think the family has had a great financial loss. Because as I said earlier on, I had 4 other young children, and one of them, the youngest was only 6, the same age as what Charlotte was. The next one was 7, and I had one at 9. And then I had a son who was 15 going on 16. And they had an absolute terrible time. I had to change them from a school because of things young children were saying, innocent children were saying terrible things about how their brother died and how it was caused, and obviously it's what they were listening to. So I had to change them from school. So they've grown up. Actually, it's a very, very difficult thing, because my husband was at the game as well, and he's never been to a game since. He just cannot face going to another football match. But my children went through a terrible time, like Charlotte did. But then at the same time, I realised, when Sue and I were working in the Hillsborough office a few years ago, a phone call came through, and Sue said to me, "Margaret, there's somebody on the phone for you." I picked the phone up, and it was my granddaughter, who at the time was 10. And she said, "I'd like an appointment to see my nan, please." And I thought, I'm doing to my grandchildren exactly what I'd done to my own children. Working all of not just myself, but obviously others, but I can only speak for myself. Working so hard to get to the truth of Hillsborough, and for the lies and the cover-up, as Charlotte was saying, was an absolute disgrace. And the funding we had to pay for every court case we went to. And I'm talking about even judicial reviews, scrutiny, inquest, all different things. We paid every step of the way. And they had lawyers paid for by the state from our taxpayers' money, while we had to go cap in hand as well, trying to fight for the truth that was there all along, for justice. And to me, what families went through, I cannot forgive that. I cannot. What my children have grown up with Hillsborough, my grandchildren are growing up with Hillsborough now, 36 years on, still not seeing the nan, because I'm busy doing other things to try and get a Hillsborough Law alongside others and people, good people, unsung heroes I call them, who are supporting this campaign and done so much that to change a system that must be changed for the good of this nation. Not for us, it's too late for us, but for the good of this nation, it's got to be changed. A law has got to be changed in all its entirety.
Thank you.
Could I just say on the point of finances, I mean, when Hillsborough happened, obviously finances just didn't come into it. We were all, but I'll speak personally, I was a taxi driver at the time, and, taxi drivers never earn good money, so you're always struggling, but you get by. And I remember I had to go to Sheffield to find my brother, came home, and the last sort of burden I wanted to give to my mother and my sister Joan was issues of finance. So when the disaster was coming to the fore and all the information was coming out, we were obviously making plans to bury our brother. And there's only one thing you could do at that time. You'd go and borrow the money. So I went to the bank and borrowed the money from... I never ever went to my mum and told my mum how much it was. She just lost her son and she didn't know how. So you just bore them problems and live through them for years, just on the financial side alone, paying loans back, etc. And this is why, we want this law in, or we beg you to bring this law in, because, the trauma alone of losing someone, and then the trauma again of all these years fighting back, it's so difficult to bear, and the financial burden was not even a second thought. I appreciate the question, but it was nothing to do with us really. We got through it, and people shouldn't have to get through things. People should be helped and supported, and this law hopefully will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, do you want to add?
I don't need, no, I think that...
Once again, the Minister has indicated that she wants members to have the opportunity to ask questions. So, Tessa Munt for the Liberal Democrats, please.
Can I just say how sorry I feel for you? It sounds dreadful, and I'm sorry. Can I just ask you, the question I should ask you is how confident are you that this will change the culture in public authorities? I sense that, from what I've heard, I ought to really say, do you have any confidence that this bill will change things?
Yeah, we're very confident. We've quite literally given 10 years of our lives fighting to be here in this place, and we've got to acknowledge that Keir Starmer is the only Prime Minister that has endorsed this bill. Yeah. I would just like to remind everyone that, our Prime Minister made me a promise, and he made a pledge to the public, and it is now your duty to ensure that you fulfil that promise as well. If we weren't confident in this bill, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Annalise Midgley.
Again, sorry, got to just... Excuse me, sorry.
I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, yes, please, Mr. Kelly.
Sorry. Just touching on something Seamus was talking about before, about changing cultures within authorities, etc. I'd just like to give you an example that's never ever left me. During the Hillsborough inquests, a man in his 40s, early 50s, was given evidence. He was an ex-PC. And at the time of Hillsborough, he was probably a young PC. And he was being questioned about the culture within the South Yorkshire Police Force at the time in 1989. And I'll never forget him saying, when you used to go up to Snig Hill and you'd be walking along the corridor, you'd hold your head down when you seen the bosses. You daren't look at them because you were frightened of them. Now, how could we encourage young officers like that to become whistleblowers? We couldn't. So we need a culture change, I thought that was, a great point, that is something this law may do for not only policemen, for any public servants. Anyone, deserves support if they're trying to right a wrong. And that young policeman must have took that with him to them inquests. And I remember looking at his face and thinking, that's the first time you've got that out. And so the burden was on him all them years as well. And that shouldn't be. And again, hopefully the Hillsborough Law will support that.
Thank you.
You're right there. The culture changes have to be led from the very top, from the CEOs of these companies. So they have got to either want to change, to make this change happen, or they need to move on.
Thank you, Ms Roberts. Annalise Midgley.
Thank you, Sir Roger. I've got 2 questions for the whole panel, whoever wants to take it, if that's okay. But to start with, I want to say thank you so much for everything that you've done. No doubt about it, we wouldn't be here in this room today with this bill where it is without your work. So my 2 questions are, we heard in an earlier evidence session from Pete Weatherby, KC, and the Director of Hillsborough Law, who was talking about command responsibility and was saying without the amendment it reduces a lot of the duties of the bill to something which looks good but is rather ineffective. And also he talked about application to the intelligence services. I just wanted to see and ask you if you agree with what Pete Weatherby said to us today. And for the shortness of time, I'll just ask my second question as well, which is, you're here before the Bill Committee. What is it that you think that we need to hear from you today?
Well, we completely support what Pete said earlier and the amendments that he has suggested. We're in full agreement with all of the information that has been included in the bill. I think, going forward, we need to acknowledge that Hillsborough is our story, whereas there are, many, many others. I think we also need to acknowledge that the Hillsborough Now campaign group is made up of so many other examples of miscarriages of justice. They will have submitted their own evidence to you, so I won't name them all today. But, we need to ensure that there is change going forward. We cannot keep allowing these same situations to keep repeating. And, ultimately, not to be disrespectful, but we also need to acknowledge that the current laws that are in place failed to secure prosecutions against those that were responsible. David Duckenfield told one lie. That one lie whilst he stood over people who were scrambling for their lives. And he got away with that because the Crown prosecution failed to secure a criminal case against him. He was offered sympathy whilst family members had to sit and watch. He was allowed to put files so that he didn't have to look at the family members that were sat in the public gallery, and then we could sit and we could talk about examples all day. Norman Betterson, he was in this building, he briefed people about what happened at Hillsborough and was allowed to do that. He was then made Chief Constable of Merseyside and then he was knighted. And he was complicit in the cover-up. We've got to change it. It's got to stop.
Margaret Aspinall.
Can I just say, I can go back a good few years ago and I've got to thank Maria Eagle for this, if you don't mind, Maria. I always remember Maria having the power, the guts to stand up in Parliament and turn round and say it was a black propaganda with Betterson. Absolutely, she was absolutely spot on. When I look back and think over the years and what Charlotte was saying earlier on, it is Mr. Duckenfield, and I call him Mr. Duckenfield out of respect to all of you, otherwise I wouldn't. But Mr. Duckenfield walked away scot-free. He went missing for a couple of hours, and yet not one person knew where he was. He could not remember where he'd been. He could not remember where he was. He must have been the bloody invisible man to me, because, good God, there's no way that... And I think the police were scared to say exactly where he was. They were all scared. They were all covering up for each other. And to me, that is an absolute, utter disgrace of a system within this country. When you can get a judge, and I know we can't bring judges up, but there's a few of them should be brought up. When we were at the private prosecution, when a judge can turn round and tell Mr. Duckenfield, don't worry, Mr. Duckenfield, you won't get a custodial sentence. We knew then we had no chance. No chance. Directed a jury twice. To direct a jury twice because they come in and ask the question, and for him to turn round and say, what message are you sending out to the emergency services to come back with guilty? Now, what does that tell all of you? What does it tell you? That we had no chance whatsoever. We were up against a system that was so corrupt from the very top to the bottom. And this, I feel we're here. I feel sometimes we're on trial yet again for what happened at Hillsborough, because we're sitting here like this. I feel we're trying to ask all of you to do the right thing. I've asked the Prime Minister. He made that promise. He made a phone call to me that he would do the right thing. And as Charlotte said, we thank him for that. He's made that promise. He'll have to fulfil that promise. He's also promised it wouldn't be watered down. But I think for Hillsborough families, and the likes of Ian as well, who was at that game, who knows what we've all gone through, what the survivors went through, we're here to change a system that should have been changed decades ago. When you look at all the cover-ups that has gone on, I can name them all, but I won't, because I'm sure you all know. But I think it's a disgrace that we're sitting here now, 36 years on, trying to change a system. I'm asking all of you, please, please, don't let anybody else go through what we've gone through. Please, I ask you all, do the right thing for the
Mrs.
people.
Aspinall, I can assure you that before this committee you are most certainly not on trial.
Yeah.
Steve Kelly.
Could you say, again, from memory, you asked sort of what we want from this. As to the Hillsborough campaign finished, Denton, Foster and Metcalfe were found not guilty. And I remember being there that day, and again, it came back that the case had been squashed. They walked away after some of the most horrific things you should do as a policeman or a solicitor. And I can remember the feeling of, I was surrounded by people, other campaigners, survivors who support us all these years, the feeling of loneliness, thinking, what now? You know, we've been all these years fighting, looking for truth, which we never got. We got some truth. Looking for justice, which we never got. We got justification. Look for accountability. Someone mentioned it before. And we've never had accountability. And I went home that day, and I live alone, and I sat at home that night and sobbed. Why? I'd done nothing wrong. I was just a lad from Liverpool. I'd done nothing. But them three men walked away with not a stain on their reputation, their full pensions, and probably a smile on their face. But I actually seen the smiles on their faces as they left the courts. No one, you shouldn't let no one do that to anyone. It's cruel. And as I say, you know, that feeling of loneliness, defeat. We've done nothing wrong. Why did I feel defeated? Because I couldn't go to, you know, my mother's grave, say we got them. Shouldn't happen.
Do you mind if I just...
One moment. Do you mind if I just take Sue Roberts, if she wishes?
Yeah.
Then by all means come back.
Add to that, you know, for all my parents, and I'm sure all other parents, it was just a feeling of despair. I thought it was that this judicial system was the best judicial system in the whole world, and little did I know how wrong I was. and we need to make that. We need to make our system the best in the world, and the Hillsborough Law is the first step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I'll ask you to come back in again in a moment, Ms Hennessy. But as Ian Byrne was at the match, I think it's probably appropriate that I call him next. And then, by all means, comment.
Thanks, Roger. Look, thanks to the four of you for what you have done, what you've put yourselves through all the time to get here. But you know as well as I know, this is the legacy, isn't it? This is our opportunity to create something which, as Margaret so eloquently says, you know, it's for future generations. So I am going to ask a question. Is there anything in the bill that needs strengthening? Because this is our opportunity now to do it. So is there anything missing? Is there anything that we feel as though is needed as an amendment to go into the bill to give you the comfort that this is a true legacy for all your loss?
I think the amendments that Peter's already submitted, we fully endorse all of them.
And without them, Charlotte, is the bill poorer for it? And have you got confidence in the bill without them?
Yes, I think that, yeah, I think they're needed. I think they make the bill stronger. Yeah. And anything that makes the bill stronger is imperative.
Exactly.
Again, we touched on it before. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure who it was. But again, I think there should be more sanctions on the press. You know, because without the press reports, you know, the Hillsborough story wouldn't have been as disastrous for us, or as long, taken so long to come to a conclusion.
James Asser, you haven't been called yet, so I'll call you next.
Thank you, Sir Roger. Firstly, I just say, no disrespect to our other witnesses, but you're one of the most important people we're going to hear from today. And actually, I have to say for myself, this is the first time I've been able to hear you directly. It has meant an awful lot to me, so I do appreciate it. You've expressed your confidence in what's before us, and we want to get that right. Given that you've had to spend 4 decades of your life campaigning on this, which is an extraordinary and appalling amount of time to get to this point, if we get this passed and we deliver on your confidence, what does that mean for you in terms of, does that mean you can say, we've won, we get our lives back in terms of being able to do all the family things that this has taken up, or does that change your campaign to be able to support others? I mean, you may have not thought about that at that point, but I just kind of want to make sure if we get this for you, get it done right, what that actually means for you, because I think it's important we know.
Yeah, I think
you do think about it every day.
Yeah.
You know, and we are confident, believe it or not.
We are confident.
And you know, we've got a lot of hope, and I'm sorry, Sue.
Sorry, we keep having this conversation.
It's something we
can't
talk about
wait
often.
for there to be a Hillsborough Law, and we can move on.
Yeah. This is about, you know, we know that we are never going to be able to secure criminal prosecutions for what happened to our loved ones. That ship has sailed. You know, the best thing that we can do now is just make sure that nobody ever goes through, you know, what we've been through. And yes, that is a conversation that the four of us have very often. I do think that, you know, once this bill is passed and in its entirety,
if I may, I always say, with Hillsborough, it's not all negativity. There's positivity as well. And the positivity is we have changed things within the way that supporters are treated. You know, they were treated appalling in the 70s, the 80s. I can go back to my own husband, you know. But we've changed things in that way. People have a choice now of either standing or sitting, and relatively 99% certain they'd go home. But I think the most important thing we can get positively out of Hillsborough is having a Hillsborough Law for the people, and I think it would be a wonderful legacy for them 97, which is most important. This is for them as well, that they have left a legacy and changed a corrupt system that was so wrong. I think our job is done then. I mean, I was relatively a young woman when I lost my son. I'm an old lady now, and I'm not going to tell you all how old I am, by the way. But I'm a very old lady now, you know. I've had a bus pass for quite a few years. And I think most of my life I've not seen my children grow up. And my grandchildren growing up. And one's engaged now. It is so wrong that nobody should have to do that and fight and campaign for the truth, for justice, for accountability, because I don't think there's any such word as justice, but accountability. And I think if we get this Hillsborough Law passed and get the King to rubber stamp it, whatever, our job is done. And the good people behind us, our unsung heroes who's helped us along this journey, got a lot to thank them for as well.
Thank you for the opportunity, and that as Bill Committee members, you have got a huge opportunity here to change that culture and to make our legal system stronger and better. Please don't waste it, and please don't let the public down.
That brings us to the end of the morning.